Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today we'll be talking about rising through resilience. There's so many people that has been through challenging, awful time, especially due to this pandemic. How do you rise above it and keep doing the things you truly believe you can do? My guest today, Angela Bradford, will be telling us just how she achieved all of this. Who is Angela? Angela Bradford is a senior marketing director with the World Financial Group. Within 4 years of transitioning from the blue collar world of tracking and training horses to the white collar world of financing and training people, she's opened multiple offices and started expansion in 2 countries. She has an amazing team working with her and has the goal of opening offices in every state and province in North America within the next 10 to 5 years. I love her. I love her determination because without having those goals, you never see what you want to achieve. But most importantly, you should be talking to us about how do you rise from resilience? How do you put yourself out there when things are so challenging and you just don't feel you could do it? She'll be telling us that journey. Meet my guest, Angela. Hello everyone and welcome to Painless Universal, a conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in my introduction, today is all about resilience and how do you find your pain and how do you find your joy in overcoming and whatever life throws at you. My guest today, Angela Bradford, will be telling us about her own journey and how she's overcome challenges in her life from being a blue collar role to successfully taking on a white collar role in a big multinational company. How did she do this? And now also not being in that company, but she's also growing the company to be bigger and expand across North America. Let's talk to Angela. Angela, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Anne?
I'm well. I'm very well today. And where are you joining me from?
I'm in Alberta, Canada today.
Oh, lovely. I love Alberta, Canada. I've been there once and it was the weather and everything was fantastic. I can't complain. I think when I went, it was fantastic. I'm not quite sure it's like that all the time.
It's
So
definitely not.
no, I really want to talk to you because you are this lady who look the way you transition with life, the way you look at careers is not something you say, I'm nervous about it. And so many women want to do what you're doing. They want to be in your shoe, they want to run big companies. They're always nervous to do that because they don't have that resilience in them to take on those massive roles. Before we get into all of that, in simple words, can you tell me a little bit about who are you?
Who am I? Oof, that's a loaded question. Um, Simplified, this is really what I've got down to. I'm a child of God. So everything I have is from that. As far as work-wise, I run a financial brokerage. Kind of like you said, we're expanding across North America now. Came from a total blue collar, truck driving, horse training, building houses background and transitioned just about 5 years ago. And definitely have never looked back. So it's been an incredible journey of a lot of different experiences and growth.
So what was your background like growing up as a child? Were you this child that just wanted to be in this blue collar? What was your background like growing up?
So I grew up homeschooled, first of all. I was homeschooled almost my entire life with my brother. And my dad was in the oil and gas industry. So I grew up, on a farm. I grew up, riding horses as a teenager. So I grew up around kind of the blue collar world, I guess. And I wanted to be a cowboy when I grew up. That was kind of my thing. I just want to grow up and be a cowboy. And so very much into the blue collar world. And everything to do with that for sure was how I was raised and raised in the country and like I said, homeschooled and all that kind of stuff.
But when did you realize that, okay, I'm in this blue collar world, it's really exciting, it's something I've grown up in, it's quite simple for me. But when did you realize to yourself and say to my, okay, I probably should try something different and I'll go for it in a big way? Because it's a big transition to go from what you were doing, horse riding and doing all those stuff, and now going into the office and, working those long hours. When did you realize this was something you needed to pursue?
Well, I got introduced to our company back in 2015 and things were slow in the trucking industry. So honestly, I just got started to learn about money and finance. I wasn't really planning on getting out of the trucking world. I just wanted to learn more. Because I was homeschooled, I always wanted to further my education and to kind of prove I was smart, quote unquote, in the real world. So I wanted to get tested on my academic smartness, and this seemed like a pretty inexpensive way to learn something. And then about 6 months in, I just really realized what we could do, and that's when I decided that this was where I needed to transition and I needed to make the change, and just would be able to impact a lot more lives here than I could through trucking and horse training and building houses and everything else. I mean, good industry, it was good pay, it was good everything. But I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to make an impact. And I realized through this, I could do more of that.
But what were some of the lessons you learned along the way during the transition? For example, anyone who is in your current situation, thinking of, okay, I've done this horseback ride, I've done this trucking, it's paying well, but I want to move into something different. What kind of life lessons would you advise someone who's thinking of something similar like what you did?
That's a good one. Find your resilience. You know, if you're going out there and transitioning, it's tough. But knowing that going into it helps, because if you know that it's going to have tough spots, then when you hit them, you're not like, oh my gosh, what just happened? You're like, oh, that's expected. Okay, perfect. I just got to get through this to get to the next level, because every level in our life, I believe you have to go through tough spots to get to the next level. So whenever tough times happen, I just view them as challenges made to see if I'm worthy of the next level. And so when I start to look at challenges in a good light, then they're not negative. So when they happen, I'm not like, oh my gosh, this isn't for me, I should quit, all those kind of things. Instead, it excites me because I'm like, man, this means I'm on the right track, because these are put in my path to see if I'm worthy, if I'm willing to work through it to get to the next level in my life and to like level up like a computer game into the next version of myself.
Yeah, I think that's, and what you've just said is really critical answer. You just have to, level up. It's not going to be easy because you're doing totally different roles in both angles, and you need to find that courage in you to level up and take on be resilient and find that strength in you to take on those new roles. I love what you said about success. You said success never comes easy, but with a little bit of help, we're able to achieve massively. So can you tell us in your own journey to success, how you've been able to help? Has anyone helped you along the way to be who you are or where you are today?
Oh my gosh, I can't start naming names because it would be forever and ever. But definitely, like, there are so many people that have helped me. I guess more recently I can say, I've got to spend some time with like John Maxwell, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, and they've really helped shape me in a massive way, because obviously they're doing some big things. So being around people that are doing big things helps a person realize that they can achieve more. And also, if you do what they tell you to do, then you're able to get there faster because they've already navigated all the landmines. So now you just kind of follow in their footsteps and figure out your way through the landmines instead of stepping on them.
That is true. That is true. So your suggestion is definitely, if you find mentors that are doing what you want to do, look at them, and just, if they're saying do it this way, it's quite important to actually follow that footstep, because they've done it and they've seen it. They've seen those challenges. I think that's the difficulty these days. If you look, a lot of careers, we sometimes take for granted our mentors, because we just think, oh, I want to do it my way, because what do you know? But I think what you've just said has really emphasized the importance of having mentors to guide you through your difficult journey. I'll come back to this. You talk about how would you resilience. Every time, I think one of your key interviews I read online was about resilience, and you're very much passionate about resilience. How would you define resilience, and what do you believe are the characteristics or traits of resilient people?
Resilience is being able to get off the mat when you're knocked down faster. So, all of us get knocked down. All of us, I mean, if you picture a boxing ring, we're all kind of in the ring of life, in my kind of visual, I guess. And so we all get knocked down. The difference between the people that win, like Muhammad Ali, is who gets off the mat faster. The difference isn't that we don't get knocked down, it's who gets back up faster. And so each time we get knocked down, we have the choice of getting up or staying down. And it's okay to stay down for a little bit, but you got to get back up. And everybody does get back up. I do believe that. Just sometimes people stay down longer. So it's getting up faster and training yourself. And I believe that that's where the resilience starts to come from, where like when struggles hit you, instead of, like I said, viewing it as a bad thing, you view it as a growth opportunity to figure out how to get up faster, how to go forward faster, how to get through the struggle faster. And then when you can learn that, you can also turn around and help other people with you get through the struggles and get through the minefields and get through the rings or whatever it is, whatever metaphor we want to talk about, of life, so that we can all move forward to become the best version of ourselves in a quicker way.
And when you think of resilience, I think you did answer it a bit, but is there anyone else that comes to your mind? I know you did say Muhammad Ali, because it's true. When you're in a boxing ring, that's it's who gets up faster. Is there anyone else that comes to your mind when you think of resilience?
Yes, there's a good friend of mine, Steve Paulbrook. I think you might know him too. He has health issues and he's worked through them and been able to build a massive company in the same industry I'm in. And that's been really inspiring, I guess, for me to be able to see other people with health challenges, to be able to overcome those and not use them for excuses, because we can have excuses or we can have reasons, but we can't have both. So we can choose to use whatever comes into our life as a, no, that's not meant for us, like I said before, that kind of thing. Or we can say, man, this is my reason, this is my why. Let's use this to motivate me to move faster at whatever capacity that we can move.
Yeah, I love Steve. I mean, I had a conversation with him. I was so totally blown away by his own journey. And I just felt, oh my goodness, this just totally reminds me of myself, of my journey, of my dealing with my own health crisis. And he's so humble about it. And he just keeps going and keeps going. And you're like, yeah, absolutely. That's the true definition of resilience. Someone who's not afraid to be knocked down and just have to find the strength again and say, okay, I need to find my strength again to rise up. In resilience, in the white collar world, you need a lot of resilience to survive in that world. It's not an easy world, because there's always that competition. There's always that dog eat. You're always looking for the next best opportunity. It's not easy. How have you managed to use that, your own guidance of resilience, to be successful in your job role?
It's a really good question. I think probably one of the biggest things for me lately has been the fact that, that I have an illness, and so that separates me from other people. And we all have little things that can separate us. So I feel like I haven't got bogged down a lot in the dog eat dog world of corporate, which happens a lot out there, because I'm not like that. I'm different. So I've set myself apart where I'm not, at least I feel like I'm not in competition. I'm doing my own journey. I'm doing my own thing. And the people that will connect to me will connect to me. And the people that will connect to them, I guess, will connect to them. But I don't feel like I'm in competition out there with, the other people that are in the same industries or doing the same thing or whatever, because I'm just doing my own thing. I've got my head down, I've got my blinders on, and I'm just going to, where we're headed. And I'm just focused on our destination and our vision and where we're headed, rather than worrying about really what anyone else says or does around me. And that's been really helpful. So like, if you've got people that are listening that come from corporate jobs, any kind of job, really, like, just do what you like. Don't worry about anyone else. Don't worry about what they say behind your back. Don't worry about what they say to your face. Just do you and become the best version of you, and keep fighting toward where you're headed in life, and you'll get there.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And I really would share that important thing which you just said, that clip which you just said, because it's very true. Sometimes we always worry about what other people are saying, and that creates so much noise in the work we're doing. And rather than focus on our own direction, where we want to go, we worry about other people's noise. Your company, you're building you're looking to expand, and you're very determined about it. Has anyone ever told you that this might be impossible? Why are you in trying? And how did you get by to prove that the impossible, even the word itself says possible?
That's so funny. Yes, definitely. Lots of people told me, interesting enough, my whole life, people have told me I couldn't do things. You know, they've told me that I couldn't be a truck driver, which is what I used to do. And so I became a truck driver and ran all over the States. Yeah. And then they told me I couldn't be a horse trainer. And so we did that in 3 different continents. And then they told me that, you know, transitioning from the blue collar world to financial services, I definitely couldn't do that. No one makes any money. No one ever survives. You won't learn it. It's a joke. It's a scam, like all kinds of stuff. And I was like, well, I just figure I'm just going to do what I do, because if people don't have what you want, don't take advice from them. I mean, take advice from people that have what you want in life, whether it's relationships, whether it's cash flow, whether it's fitness, whatever area that they're good in, take advice in those areas. But what I found is a lot of people that told me, you know, that I would fail, that I wouldn't be success, that I wouldn't, all the things didn't really have what I wanted anyway. They were negative, they were broke, they were struggling, you know, they had bad relationships. I'm like, well, I don't want their life. So why would I want their advice? So just make sure whatever you're moving on in life, take advice from those that have what you want, not from those that don't have what you want. And then interesting enough, no one ever gave me a better option. I'm like, okay, well, if I don't do this, what is my option? What have you got better for me? And they never have anything better. So people sometimes just want to detract from where you're going, and maybe not consciously. People aren't, I don't think, vindictive mostly, but they're wanting to stop you from something, but they're not giving you anything in return. So they just want you to stop and hang out, I guess. Which is definitely not something. I mean, I don't think we're created here to just stop and hang out. We're created to grow and expand and become the best version of us.
Absolutely, absolutely, we are. And you know, in life we always go have a painful setback. Sometimes we have this plan and we're so focused, everything's going well, but there is always this moment, one thing that gives us this painful setback. Have you ever had a painful setback, and how did you recover from that, those difficult, challenging times?
Um, Yeah, for sure. So I've had clients or agents start in my agency, and we've become close, and you know, then they've had changes of hearts, and you know, they've parted ways, and that's how I've chosen to look at it. So instead of taking things personally, I've learned it's not personal. And but those are probably the hard times when you really, you know, like someone, trust them, that kind of thing, and then they quote let you down, but really they're not letting you down because they're only letting themselves down. They can only let us down if we allow them to let us down. Otherwise, we control our feelings. They control their activities, but we control our feelings. So really can't use those things to kind of let us down. And so in those setbacks, I've also learned that every time that I've had something like that, things have blown up in a bigger way after. So every time something tough has come into my life, anything like that, someone negative, someone quits, you know, client cancels their plan, whatever, every time something else has come back bigger and better afterwards. So it's like I said, it's like that test, like, are you actually worthy of the next level, or aren't you? Are you going to sit down and cry, which is fine, by the way, sometimes, but are you going to get back up and get to work again? Or what are you going to do in those choices? So, yeah.
The choice is yours, absolutely true. Your resilience, right? Did the truck driving, did that contribute a bit to your own? Because, and I can imagine a girl going out there and saying, this is something I want to do. And it's a very male-dominated world. As much as the financial people might say the white-collar world is very well male-dominated. But your own work is very, the truck driving and everything you did, it's very male-dominated. How did that contribute to a bit of resilience in your characters? Did it build strength in you?
Definitely did. Because I just went out there, and it is a very male dominated world, that one for sure. And I just went out there not to prove myself better than the males, but just to prove myself to myself. And in doing that, I was able to earn a lot of respect out there. So I guess I learned through that was just like, just be you, you know, be you, keep fighting for you. And through that, you'll gain respect from people that are watching you. and every one of us is being watched. That sounds kind of creepy, but it's true. And everyone is being watched. So when I was trucking, obviously there was a lot of people that were watching me then to see if I could do it, to see what I do. And I just went out there, like I said, just to, outrun, outwork, out hustle myself. So week to week, I was trying to work harder and do more. And it wasn't about competing with someone else. And I think that that's a huge thing, blue collar, white collar, any world, that'll, like, if you're going to compete, which is a big thing out there, make sure you're competing with yourself, not competing with other people. Because when you compete with other people and compare, because I've done that too, that's whenever my energy shifts and I kind of lose some of my drive and I get kind of tore down, and my results obviously follow all of that. So if I'm like on the trucking, like I said, if I was out there trying to prove that I was better than the guys, well, that didn't work very well, because then they'd be competitive about it. So I had to just prove that I was better than me.
I prove I was better than me, not trying to compete with everyone around me, whether they're man or female or whatever. You were just always working hard to prove yourself that you were better than yourself.
Yeah.
This is a good tipping point here. I think everyone should listen and should understand that it's not too much focusing on so many people, other people, because that's a distraction again. It's also proving yourself that you're better than you. Oh gosh, that is so cute. I love that. I love the way you say it, because I think anyone listening who's having troubles in their own self, in their own identity, then what they do, they will understand it can be done, but they have to understand it starts with yourself. You need to be confident in yourself, and you could then expand it outwards. And in your job now, you're looking to expand. What are some of the challenges that the pandemic is presenting, and how, as a woman, do you overcome these challenges? Because one thing I love about you is that your work, you really, you go out all out. You're not saying I'm just going to aim for two. You said I'm looking to expand in five to 10 North Africa in North American countries. I'm like, wow, how do you make such big plans? And what would you tell other women, men listening to this conversation about ways they can believe in themselves while aiming for their goal and agenda?
Yes, big vision. Self-belief is probably one of the most important things. I agree with that. And it's probably one of the hardest things that I've seen for people to achieve. And one of the biggest things I believe where self-belief can come from is keeping the promises you say to yourself every day. And so, example, you set your alarm in the morning. Do you get up when your alarm goes off, or do you hit snooze? Because if you hit snooze, I mean, if you plan to hit snooze, that's different. But if you hit snooze every time, you're breaking your promise to yourself every time. And your subconscious realizes that if you don't believe in what you're saying and you're not going to take your own word, why would anyone else listen to you? And why would you ever want to dream big if you can't do something simple like get out of bed in the morning when you say you got to? Then how are you ever going to run a company? How are you ever going to be a CEO? How are you ever going to do all these things? So this the little things that I believe create the most self-belief to create the bigger belief. Because if you can do all the little things, you can go to the gym every day, you can do whatever it is that you set yourself up to do, and you do that when you tell yourself, then you can start to believe, you know what, I'm doing this, therefore I deserve to have this. And then when I get this, then I deserve to have the next level. And you start to have a self-confidence and the self-belief that really nothing can take from you, because you know that you're doing what other people won't have. Therefore, you deserve to have what other people won't get. And through that, you can start to do that. And then another thing is like visualization, visualizing your future every day and saying it to yourself. Like, I read my goals out loud twice a day, morning and night. Seems crazy when I started about 3 years ago, but it's been absolutely incredible, because your subconscious then goes to work on what your conscious, or your conscious goes to work on what your subconscious believes. Because if your subconscious believes you can do something, then your conscious doesn't like that disconnect between the two. So it goes to work to make sure that your subconscious and your conscious actually align. So another big thing is, so keep the promise to yourself. Number two, visualize and have in writing and read it and focus on it where you want to go. And it might start out seeming absolutely crazy, But if you focus on it long enough and do the self-belief, the work, all that kind of stuff in the meantime, it's amazing. It's incredible what actually happens. And you start to realize that what you focus on actually is happening. And then you're like, wow, I should stretch my vision more because I want more to happen. And if I stretch it more, then it'll happen too. Because once you start hitting little goals, you'll start to realize what you're capable of. And if you can hit little ones, you can hit big ones.
Absolutely. The final question before I let you go, Angela, is about resilience again. You said resilience is like a muscle that can be strengthened. In your opinion, what are 5 steps that someone can take to become more resilient?
5 steps to become a resilient.
Yes.
Number 1, I guess, would be what, I don't know, in no particular order, but number 1 of them would be building your self-belief. So making sure whatever promises you keep, you say you keep them. Number 2 would be to monitor your associations. Who you surround yourself really dictates your life in a huge way. So make sure that people around you are resilient and, you know, going where you want them, where you want to go. Number 3 would be personal growth, you know, growing into that person that can take you to where you want to go. So reading, audio, listening to like podcasts like this and stuff like that, like doing that all the time is really important. Doing the work, just getting up, getting off the mat, going back to that. And then for me, I guess centering. Like I said, I'm a child of God. I believe in God, universe, whatever you believe in, but centering and really using whatever faith you have in something bigger than you to really realize that that power is there for you no matter what happens inside or outside of you.
Absolutely. I'm a child of God as well. I believe in God. I believe God always has a plan for us, and we just have to sometimes sit back and listen. Angela Bradford, I'm really delighted that you took the time out of your busy schedule. You know, you're a difficult person to get hold of. You're doing a serious, very important role, but you managed to take the time out to speak to me. I'm really honored. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you all the best with everything you do. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a huge honor because I know you're also very busy. So I appreciate that very much, Anne.
Thank you. I appreciate this as well. Thanks.